What's going on, everybody? I'm Jason the Gamer, and today we're doing another episode of Nerding with Friends. We're doing something a little different today. We're following Kelvin's latest idea for an episode, and I'm personally excited for this episode. It's doing, something really awesome, and, without further ado, here's Kelvin to tell us what it's all about. What's going on, Kelvin?
We've had Marvel and DC fighting each other for no clear reason. Until lately, our local experts, Jason and Nick, have found out the reason why. For those of you who don't honestly know much about comic books, there's Wikipedia and there's Google. Then there's your local comic book store if you can find one. This means a lot to us just because it's really interesting. You have the cinematic universe with the new Marvel movies coming out. You have the actual comic books like DC's, one of my favorite ones, The Dark Knight Returns. So yeah, you got some stuff in there. It's pretty damn interesting. You gotta check it out, give them the chance. But we gotta find out why they're fighting. I mean, there have been pictures released saying to love DC doesn't mean to hate Marvel. And to love Marvel doesn't mean to hate DC. There is some love in between there. We gotta find the reason why there's hate. Jason and Nick?
Alright guys, where's the love? Where did this beef start?
Actually, it's them. They did it. They're at fault.
Alright, actually, yeah, Marvel's kind of at fault on this one. It all started because of one tyrant in the comic book industry. A guy so selfish, he takes the credit for every character he's ever worked on in his entire life. To the ordinary man, he's nothing more than a funny, creative guy who makes cameos in his characters' movies. But to people who pay attention to the industry like us, he is the guy who's willing to steal away your life's work at a moment's notice. He is
Motherfucking Stan Lee.
So you're telling me, one man, one single man caused all this hate. All of it. I need some details.
It's not that crazy. I mean, Stan Lee took credit for a lot of characters that he really didn't do that much work on, like Spider-Man. He takes all the credit for it. People even forget that the artist is still alive, and he's the one who came up with the main ideas of Spider-Man being who he is. Stan Lee wanted him to be an actual, not as cool Spider character. Steve Ditko, the artist, said, why not make him an actual hero that looks decent, not just a hairy freak to stare at. He made people, like, really talented people, like Todd McFarlane, quit. Todd McFarlane had to go to a different company and make one of my personal favorite characters, Spawn. And he had to do it somewhere else because Stan Lee literally pissed him off to the point where he left. And a lot of people actually went to work for DC because they hated Stan Lee so much they decided to go somewhere else. And that's when things kind of like escalated a little bit.
I don't know all that much, but I do know of the legendary Jack Kirby.
Well, Jack Kirby is another good example about how Stan Lee pisses somebody off and they left again.
Yep, he actually made your favorite character, Darkseid.
Darkseid.
Which we took.
Yeah, as Thanos. But, yeah, DC brought, they kind of welcomed in all the storytellers and artists like Jim Lee, for example. Who did the infamous X-Men #1 with all the 4 different comic covers. Yep. Yeah, he left Marvel, went to Image, and then he went to DC because Marvel were just like, they weren't like the nicest people. They were complete asses about it, you know. And of course, you get the people who were at DC, and then they were like, yeah, these guys are asses, and they go to Marvel, and things like that. You know, it's like, well, you'll get news from like the fanboys and things like that, and they'll hear about that, and they'll be like, yeah, well, I hate DC now, you know, or I hate Marvel now.
Yeah.
Okay, but wasn't there any kind of like, wait, you just left Marvel and now you want to work for us? Shouldn't we be slightly worried about that? I mean, even with the, legendary Jack Kirby's transition, DC was at first, from what I know, like, wait, you want to work for us? When they should have been like, come here, come here, come here!
That's kind of what they're doing now, you know?
Well, it's kind of skeptical, because they're like, a lot of great people are wanting to leave where they are and go work for someone, because Detective Comics was big, they did start first, but Marvel was a little more out there, I would say, because while DC took time and effort to produce, like, worked really hard to produce a comic, and then worked really hard to produce another comic, Marvel just kind of hammered them out. Granted, there were still good stories, but they were quicker to hammer out comics than DC was, which is why Marvel became a little more popular, I would say. Not in the sense that they sold more or anything, but just more well-known, because they were so quick. They had merchandise everywhere where you would see, like, 5 Marvel comics, you'd see, like, maybe 2 DC.
It's true, DC does take a while to produce comics,
such
as the legendary Superman Council meetings, where back when Superman was first coming out around that time period, they would have big council meetings, and they literally plan out for the next month what would happen with Superman.
Marvel didn't do that. They just hammered out They said, okay, they would plan out like the whole series, and then they would just hammer out issue after issue. Like they would just have a whole storyboard, and they still do that today with like their lesser known series. They'll have the whole story ready to go, and they'll just draw picture after picture and just hammer them out like month after month, just comic.
Yeah.
So they produce a lot more, which is why I'd say they were more well known than DC was. Although DC did produce really well thought stories because they put a lot more effort into it.
Such as Forever Evil, which I will say it did take time for it to actually finish.
Oh, there was a lot of time between the issues.
Yeah, between the last issue especially, but that was because
they did really good work on it.
They did, but that was because they found out they needed more paper for the very last issue, so they needed to wait on that. But yeah, DC definitely brings in a lot of people, like Marvel does as well. You know, and like you said, DC was been around, but Marvel was just kind of hammering them out. But nowadays, you know, you're getting good story arcs from both. But on the inside, you know, you get people like what's his name, Joe Quesada.
Yep.
Who was actually booed off of stage at Comic Cons and things like that, conventions.
I mean, for good reason.
Well, yeah, you know, for those of you that don't know, Joe Quesada is he still the editor-in-chief at Marvel?
I don't think so, not anymore.
I don't think so. And what he did was
for a while,
he ruined Spider-Man. We're gonna elaborate that on a different
new episode.
We're on a different.
We're gonna
episode.
take an hour on that one. I'm gonna nail him. Like,
Seriously, there are a bunch of different people who were inkers or people who came up with plots and stories, etc., what have you. We're gonna have plenty of time to do story by story episodes behind these people.
Yeah,
but my favorite Jack Kirby. We're gonna hit these people one by one.
Just for Joe Quesada, he ruined Spider-Man. Fuck you, Joe Quesada. Fuck you.
Seriously, that really pissed off Jason.
That was horrible.
That pissed me off so much. I mean, fuck you, man.
Yeah,
you were cool
horrible.
until then.
Yeah, right. You know, everybody was loving him, and then he ruined Spider-Man completely for everybody.
Just
don't worry, we'll explain why.
Yeah, he doesn't like the marriage, and he also didn't like Gwen Stacy.
Yep.
Shh, you guys are spoiling.
Alright, we'll get into that later.
Those later.
Yeah, so now we figured out the truth. We understand why. It's all because Stan Lee.
Yep. One man ruined, started
everything.
A feud
between two giant companies.
Two great companies.
Yeah.
You know, there are story arcs from Marvel that I love.
Death in the Family from DC.
Yep. You know, and the whole Civil War story arc, which is coming up soon in the movies. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah, so we got the truth now.
Yep, and hopefully...
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to me. But there's work to be done. There must be more than this. Seriously.
We gotta let people know.
Yeah, we can.
We got work to do.
We got a lot of ground to cover. We're gonna tell everyone the truth about this. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to check out our last video.
Get that out of my face, man. Like...
Anyway,
He's a Teletubby.
So, be sure to check out the last video. Also, hit the subscribe button down below. Leave a comment or email us any suggestions you may have. We appreciate the feedback from you guys so much. So, to wrap things up, I'm the nerd.
We're the friends.
And I'll see you guys next time. Stay classy, YouTube.